Hello everyone and welcome to another episode on the Ordinary Boy Boxing channel. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the heavyweight contest that happened in September between Andy Ruiz and Ruiz Ortiz. The fight happened on September the 4th, 2022 at the Crypto.com arena in Los Angeles. Looking at both fighters, Ortiz's last three fights leading into this fight was a KO loss against Deontay Wilder in round 7, a KO win against Alexander Flores, that was a KO in round 1, and finally a TKO win after Charles Martin in round 6. Going on to Andy Ruiz, he obviously had that those two fights with Anthony Joshua. The first one where he won the Unified Heavyweight Championships, and that was a TKO win in round 7, a massive upset against Anthony Joshua. They then had a rematch later that year in Saudi Arabia where he lost his titles in a unanimous decision to Anthony Joshua, and then his last outing was a unanimous decision win against Chris Arreola. Now, when this fight was announced, I was very excited for this fight. I'm actually quite fond of both of these fighters. Obviously, Andy Ruiz shocked the world when he beat Anthony Joshua for the heavyweight championship, and he's always been an exciting fighter to watch. He's explosive. The size and the weight of him, you wouldn't think he would be a very good athlete, but he's amazing. He fights in spurts. He's shockingly quick, and he's always an exciting fighter. And then Ruiz Ortiz obviously had those fights with Deontay Wilder. At one point, he was the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. He was kind of avoided. And in the Deontay Wilder fights, he was winning up until those knockouts. He's getting on a bit in age. No one actually knows his real age. Kind of a joke in boxing that he's actually 100. But even if he is 100, what a heavyweight. So this was always going to be an exciting fight in my opinion. Okay, so that's the tale of the tape. So now I'm going to score. I'm going to give you my scores of the fight and a quick sum up of each round. So we had round 1, the fight began, a very quiet round, both very tentative. Ortiz landed a cracking shot towards the end of the round, and for me that was enough to win him the first round, so that's a 10-9 round to Ruiz Ortiz. Going into round 2, a knockdown out of absolutely nowhere. A counter punch from Andy Ruiz put Ortiz on the floor, and he only just made the count. This was followed by a second knockdown. It was counted as a knockdown. Afterwards there was talks that it could have been a slip. There was no replay from a different angle, so I'm not sure if it was a slip or a knockdown, but I'm going to count as a knockdown because the referee did. At this point I'm thinking surely this fight is not going to go the distance. So that was a 10-7 round to Andy Ruiz with those two knockdowns. Going into round 3, nice use of the jab from Ruiz Ortiz. Ruiz was on the back foot at the most of this round. There was not much in this round to give it either way, but I did give it to Ortiz in the end for his activity. So that's a 10-9 to Ruiz Ortiz. On to round 4 then. Kind of a nothing round again. Could pick either way. I went with Ortiz based on his ring generalship and his controlling pace with the jab. His jab was working really well in this round. So that's a 10-9 again to Ruiz Ortiz. Then round 5, really hard rounds to score. I gave this to Ruiz purely based on the more eye-catching punches. So 10-9 to Andy Ruiz. Round 6, again a nothing round for the most part. I gave this to Ruiz Ortiz for the more punches landed. The crowd was starting to boo at this point because there was not a lot going on with either man due to the lack of action. So yeah, that's a 10-9 round to Ortiz. Round 7, most of this round was non-eventful. Ruiz with the better shots. Ruiz finally had a flurry and scored another knockdown. So that would be the third knockdown now Ruiz has scored. And it was a similar shot that he actually caught Anthony Joshua with in that first fight. So that's a 10-8 round to Andy Ruiz. On to round 8. Ortiz was now exchanging with Ruiz. The jab worked well for Ortiz. Bit more action in this round than some of the previous. So I gave that I gave that a 10-9 round to Ortiz. Round 9, Ruiz exploded into action as soon as this round started. Ortiz also caught Ruiz with some good punches. Ruiz, there was the thing with Ruiz is apart from that opening flurry, there was not a lot else he was doing in this round. But in this round, Ortiz, he was just trying to flick him off with the jab. It was nothing majorly effective, so it was hard to give it to either man. In the end, I did give it to Ruiz because of the opening exchange that he had. So that's a 10-9 to Andy Ruiz. Round 10, lovely shots from Ortiz in this round, the best round that he had in the whole fight. Ruiz was really struggling with the jab, so I gave this round easy to Ortiz. So that's a 10-9 to Ruiz Ortiz. On to round 11, Ortiz caught with a straight right for Ruiz and then a good flurry from him. Apart from the jab, Ortiz didn't really have a reply to what Andy Ruiz was doing. At this point, all Ortiz was doing was throwing out that jab. So I gave this round to Andy Ruiz a 10-9. And then finally on to round 12, a fantastic exchange from both men. For me, Ortiz with the better punches. So that's a 10-9 to Ruiz Ortiz in the final round. So with all that summed up, my scores for this fight was 113 to 112 for Andy Ruiz. Without those 3 knockdowns, I would have gave the fight to Ruiz Ortiz. Hard fight to watch. Considering it was a 3 knockdown fight, I struggled with the rounds. There wasn't a knockdown. There was not a lot going on. Both men were so tentative. So I scored it 113, 112 for Ruiz. One judge had it the same as me, 113, 112, and 2 other judges had it 114 to 111, all for Andy Ruiz. So Andy Ruiz wins by unanimous decision. I'm okay with that. Obviously, I scored the same, and then the 2 other judges had it by a difference of a round. That's fine. So yeah, I do agree with that decision. Andy Ruiz didn't look amazing. He was very tentative with what he was very kind of. He was waiting for Ortiz to do something so he could counter, and he can't keep doing that because he could, the fight can just slip away from him as it was doing in this fight. Some notes I had from the fight. Ruiz looking a lot trimmer coming in from obviously that Joshua rematch and the first fight. He's looking a lot trimmer, so he's obviously been working hard in the gym. Ortiz was hesitant to commit. He kind of threw out that jab and then he wouldn't do much else. I think after that knockdown early on in the fight, it had kind of put him off a little bit. And yeah, like I said, both men just waiting to counter the whole time, and it made for a very jittery, slow paced fight, to the point obviously where the crowd were booing. Yeah, every time Ortiz had Ruiz backed in the corner, he didn't throw when he could have, and that could have done some damage because he was constantly worried about the counter that's going to come back from Ruiz. Ruiz wanted to counter punch, like I said, cost him rounds. I mean, he's always kind of looked for that counter punch, but I think in this fight, that's all he was relying on the counter punch too much. It did inevitably actually give him 3 knockdowns, but if he hadn't got those knockdowns, it really would have cost him the fight. It was a very hard fight to score, apart from the knockdown rounds, so I could see why people had such different scores when this fight was over. So yeah, that was the Ruiz Ortiz fight. What happens next? Well, Andy Ruiz is destined to fight Deontay Wilder. That'll be an amazing fight. Both explosive. Usually both in exciting fights. Both have been down before in fights, and the winner should then become the #1 contender for the WBC. Whoever wins out that fight, in my opinion, does deserve to be #1 contender for the WBC. With Ruiz Ortiz, I'd imagine he'll carry on. I'm not sure who he fights now. There's still some good fights out there from Dillian White would be a good fight. Chisora would be a good fight. There's so many So many different options. Obviously, and he's not been in with Joshua actually either. So yeah, him and Joshua would be a good fight as well. That'd be a good fight for Joshua. He's still looking amazing for his age. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't actually know how old he is, but he is looking really good. He's really durable and he's always in good fights. So as long as he wants to carry on, I think he will. So yeah, that was my summing up of the fight. The rounds with the knockdowns were brilliant. Some of the best rounds this year. The rest of the fight was pretty boring because they were both so tentative. It wasn't the fight that it could have been, but at least we had the rounds with the knockdowns that did kind of spring it into action. So anyway, that was my review for Andy Ruiz versus Ruiz Ortiz. Did you watch the fight? And if you did, how did you score it? What did you think of it? Were you disappointed, or was it as good as you thought it would be? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment and share this video, and I'll see you next time.